Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited that you are all interested in this amazing topic, which is basically growing your seedlings for profit, taking your expertise as a flower farmer or farmer florist and or nursery owner and bringing it to the enthusiastic cutting garden owner, home gardener, people who really want to basically garden like the pros and be like a flower farmer. So that is today's topic. And we have three presenters, all Slow Flowers members, all with slightly different operations. So I think you'll have a lot to learn. Speakers. So first, I want to introduce um, Kate Skelton of Gratitude Flowers, our first speaker. Hi, Kate.
Good morning, everyone.
I'm
Excited to
gonna.
be here.
I first met Kate at a farmer meetup in the Pacific Northwest a couple years ago at Jody Logue's house, and she owns Matter and Moss Flower Farm, and she just was having these coffee and pie meetups for farmers, and she invited me, and Kate and I just started chatting, and I was so fascinated with Kate's story, a plant grower. Yeah. So I was really intrigued. I invited myself over to see what you're doing since we live pretty close to each other. And now I've purchased seedlings from you. You've participated in the Ultimate Cutting Garden Plant Sale that we had last spring, and you'll be vending at that again on May 3rd. And so, like Carol and Fawn, I invited you and the two of them, plus some other people, to be part of this Johnny Seeds article that ran last fall about this very topic. But sometimes when you have it more in a conversation mode with animated with human beings rather than just reading it on online, you can get your questions answered.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, Deborah, and all of our co-presenters today. I'm excited to learn from you all as well. So I'm Kate Skelton of Gratitude Flowers, and I'm located in Edgewood, Washington, which is just south of Seattle and east of Tacoma, for those of you familiar with the area. Um, and actually, I'll even put in there a little side note right by Milton, which everyone knows, but not my little city. Yeah. And so yeah, I'm a local nursery and flower farm. I focus mainly on plant starts as well as some seasonal blooms and some artisan bouquet subscriptions as we have our local flowers in season when we get past our winter storm here. Um, so focusing on that, as you're getting started, I've had, or actually, I should take a step back here, talking about the article that Deborah had written for Johnny's. I have actually had a lot of people around the country reaching out to me, asking a lot of questions, and like, how'd you get started? And so I want to share some of that with you. As you're getting started, if you're doing flower farming, this is really a natural extension of things because you're already growing plants and stuff, and it allows you to extend your season beyond, when our flowers are actually blooming, which definitely is helpful as you're growing your business and trying to create more income revenues. The beautiful thing that I really like about selling plants locally is the connection that I'm starting to see with local gardeners and farmers. The community really is, discussing what are the local natives, what things grow well in the area, and that's a really positive thing for our community that seems to have been lacking somewhat in the nursery, the big box stores and the general big nursery trade. Um, because we have experience growing and we're able to share that with our community. Whereas when you're dealing with the big box stores, they're shipping stuff in. Is it really going to be great in the area? Is it coming in at the right time when things should be planted? And so we have a great opportunity here in our flower community to really help people be successful with growing in our local communities because we know when things should be planted and, again, what grows well in our area. So, as you are getting started, I would really consider just starting with what you already have. You're probably growing extra seedlings. If you're doing plant cuttings and divisions, those can be really great things to start potting up for customers. Another thing is working with seedlings that are difficult for most people to start with. I actually started with Lizzie Anthus. That was kind of the start of my business. I'm originally used to grow down in Southern California, and you could buy Lizzie Anthus at the local nurseries. And moved up here, didn't see them for years, and one day ran into them in Idaho, and I was like, I haven't seen those in years, and I love them. I was like, and found out there's a community of people that wanted them as well. And that's what started my business. So that's something to really consider as you're getting started out. What are your customers saying that are, if you're a flower farmer, what are they interested in? Are they interested in growing certain things, that they're buying from you? Have those conversations to find out what might be a good area to get started in. And like I said, you really want to start with what you have because working with plants and getting started out, you know, thinking about the costs, start with what you already have. So I have a nursery that I do on site at my home that is seasonal that will be opening up in April. And I also do curated plant collections, thinking about my different audience, which getting into that, I want to share that we have gardeners that like to come in and they just want to go pick the plants that they want. But you also will have customers that are newer to growing that are going to have a lot of questions on what should they grow, what's easy to grow, what should they try. And what I have found is doing curated plant collections really starts to target both of those group customers as you're starting to build your customer base. Selecting things that grow well together, things that grow obviously, all in sun, or maybe a collection where it's part shade can be really beneficial for a newer grower. Um, Having curated collections also makes it easier for the grower to not have to think too much about stuff. It simplifies the decisions on their part as they're learning to grow because you've already created a collection for them. Um, Thinking about, as I mentioned, I grow Lysianthus as one example. That's a real niche collection, and that's something to consider as you're working with your customers of, are they looking for certain types of plants that you can't find elsewhere? The nursery trade, talking with my customers in my local area, they feel it's really changing in regards to, you don't see tall cutting garden varieties. Most things are focused on bedding varieties, but people want more cutting garden variety plants. Also, I would say in addition, container plants or basket stuffers, as they typically call them. I'm hearing that's an area that we're just not seeing the varieties that we used to see in the stores and the local, the big box stores. And so I think there's a need there as well that we can start to fill for our customers, because it seems these other places are no longer doing it, just less variety. Cutting garden type collections are really popular. I started out with one and just kind of was like, hey, I'm going to throw in some extra plants that I have, maybe some that I had a limited variety of. So it was a special collection. If you got this, you got this type of plant. Um, Thinking about some of the popular seedling collections that are coming out from some local growers around our country for creating collections around some of these specialty seedlings that not everybody necessarily, it's easy to get their hands on, are really popular. As I've gone through the years, I'm finding perennial collections are popular. Thinking about starting a garden these days, it is quite expensive. And so offering seedlings of perennials really is popular for newer homeowners and somebody that just moved to a new home that didn't have much landscaping. So those have been really popular. I don't focus too much on vegetables except for chilies, which is kind of my husband's little niche. And so you might have a local community that's really interested in a certain heirloom variety tomatoes, or, list goes on and on. So you can consider vegetables as well. Um, Native collections can be really great. You definitely will have customers that are thinking about wanting to support, their beneficial insects and bring more birds and things into their gardens. So, natives can be really good. Also, container gardens are really popular because there's a lot of people growing on either they're living in apartments or condos and they want to be able to grow some things, or they have small lots and want to be able to do things. So, thinking about some container type arrangements that you could do could be great as well. So those are just some ideas that I've heard others talking about that have been that they have been trying and are finding work for them, as well as some of the things I've been trying. Yeah, and so um, as you get into this, there's one thing that a lot of people don't think about that I do want to mention is if you're a flower farmer and you start adding plants to your sales, you do need to look at your state and what their licensing requirements are. Different states obviously are going to have different requirements. I think Washington, it's still if you make at least $100 in plant sales, you actually do have to have a nursery license. Also, some states might require a certain type of insurance outside of regular business insurance. So definitely look into that as you're getting started. I'll also mention flower farmers sometimes don't have people coming on site. So that's another consideration as you start to open up having plant sales and things on properties. You might need some sort of insurance for that. Also, you need to look into your local codes and ordinances. I hear people start up and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know I couldn't even have people come on my property to sell or to buy things." You might not be able to put signage out. So these are things to consider before you get started, because you don't want to get halfway through it and then find out, oh, you can't even do this in your city, because I've heard that happen to some people. There also can be codes related to things like parking and stuff. So I'll mention that. Again, as you're getting into this, you need to get into all these considerations that start to crop up, because sometimes those things can start to tie into, you need extra funding to tie into, some study that's being done and proving that, yeah, you're not changing the traffic patterns. And last thing I want to mention as you get into starting to sell plants is we all get really excited. I love this plant, and oh, I think others will love it. Pay attention to what you're selling and see what others are having experiences growing these things in your area. So you want to consider invasives. All states definitely will have invasive plant lists, but go beyond that, because what I'm finding in my state is there's a good number of things that are not listed on our invasive species. Yet, when I do the research, there's some very invasive plants in our local area that a lot of gardeners have commented on. And so as I'm buying seeds, I research before I start bringing things into my area, and also being able to, can I actually sell it in my area? And that's also something to consider if you get into shipping. Um, I don't ship. I'm going to stay only local, but if you get into shipping, you definitely want to think about some of those things, and licensing obviously related to it. So that's really, as I've got started, things I've been thinking about and things I've had some luck with, and thinking about my customers. One last thing I actually also want to mention here is you will find every market is different. So it really pays, as if you're going to sell at different markets, to start to talk with people and find out what the clientele is, because that will help you determine what might sell better at different markets. Like I said, a container collection or more a niche collection like Lysianthus plugs or something like that.
This was so helpful. Thank you so much. I have a few questions, and if anybody has them, and put them in the chat, and we'll collect them if we run out of time now before we move on to Carol. We'll circle back. Tell us about your schedule. Here we're laughing before everyone. You don't realize this, but it's March 13th, and Kate and I are experiencing a snowfall here in the outside the Seattle area. When is your first open day?
So I will be opening the first Saturday in April, so that's April 4th, and then I'm open seasonally, typically till mid-June when our area starts getting really warm and people are not interested in planting as
Okay, so
much.
we've got about 3 weeks, but it'll all be ready for us at the first weekend of April. I hope to come shop from you. What inventory will you have? What are your first plants that you'll be offering to people in that early sale?
So I focus, and I actually did not share this. I grow most of my things in soil blocks as I've been really trying to reduce single plastic usage and be quite sustainable. So most of my starts are sold in 2-inch soil blocks, and I start out the season with the cool season plants and perennials. So lots of things for the cutting gardens, like snapdragons are always really popular. So I start out with the group 2 and group 3 uh, snapdragons earlier at the beginning of the season, and then I'll shift to the group 4, like the Potomac and some of the Madam Butterfly ones more often. So lots of cutting garden things, annuals, cut and come again, Lysianthus, I sell those pre-order and plugs, and then I'll have some potted up as individual plants. Rudbeckia is really popular, so I usually have a few variety of those. Craspedia is a popular one that you rarely see sold anywhere, so that's a good one to mention because people really like that one.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, Scabiosa, I've got quite a bit of perennial and so I've got the Fama this year. I think I have both colors this year, the blue and the white, and then the Black Knight Scabiosa is always really popular. I've actually eliminated some of the other colors because they're not popular. Um, yeah,
So,
and
Kate, if people go to gratitude-flowers.com, you do have a newsletter mailing list sign up. So that's a good way for people to
mhm,
track what and when you're promoting your
yeah.
collections and your sales. Okay.
Well, welcome to the little farm on Olga Road. Kate, I really appreciated your presentation. There was so much that you said that I also want to relate, and we'll try not to repeat. And also, thank you, Deborah. I mean, you've got such a community, and I can't thank you enough for how much you bring us together. Because farming is an interesting practice, and it's really hard work. And there's so many things that don't go well. And having a community and just listening to you, Kate, I was like, oh, yeah, been there. So it's really nice. It's quite lovely, and I really appreciate what you do. So we are the little farm on Olga Road. We are out on Orcas Island, about 2 hours north of Seattle, 6 miles away from Canada, thankfully. Um, And we're on 3 acres. We bought this property 4 years ago. And what you're looking at is a drone shot that my husband took. And I just want you to know, when we got here, there was nothing there. It was all lawn. It was all fallow hayfield. So Alan and I were a little nutty, very project oriented. I plant everything. Alan puts in all the infrastructure. He literally builds everything, fence, electrical, plumbing, hoop houses, greenhouses, you name it. And then we've had a couple community members adopt us, one who really helped us with our pond, which we dug, and it was a nightmare, but we needed water. We needed to capture water. We also dug a well, but obviously we didn't physically dig the well ourselves. But anywho, an excavator guy adopted us and a pond guy adopted us. And we've just been going gangbusters ever since. So I'm Carol, um, owner, grower, have gardened all my life, come from a long lineage of gardens. Garden is a passion for me. Gardening is a passion for me. Never thought I'd own a flower farm, but Alan and I looked out over this fallow hayfield and thought, well, we could do better than that. Love perennials. I haven't met a perennial I didn't love. Um, but Alan and I also, the reality is we own a software company. It's a small little niche software company that we have grown bootstrap from the very beginning. And with the advent of AI, I have to tell you, Alan and I are learning everything we can possibly learn about AI, and it's a little frightening, this world. So that's impacting how I am treating the farm going forward. So you'll hear me talk about that. All right. So 5 ways we deliver island beauty. We are a tourist destination, so lots of weddings. So I do a lot of wedding floral. But I will tell you, I really lean into DIY. Come and pick your flowers, make it accessible, drive down the price of these weddings, which are insane. Just went through one with my own daughter, and it's like for the love. So I really want to make wedding floral flowers accessible. The U pick. Opened our farm to U pick 3 years ago and have never looked back. It has been such a positive experience. Also offer the nursery plants. I'll tell you the evolution of that. And I do private workshops, and we do events at the farm. So we do, like, people will come and do their proposals here. It's very picturesque. And then we rent the farm for like wedding welcome parties and small things. We're only 3 acres, so these have to be small events. And then we have our farm stand, and I do the farmers market, and then I sell online as well. So, two audiences, one mission. This is a passion project. Alan and I are very involved in the community. He's the president of the Orcas Aviation Association. So he runs all the Mercy flights off the island. And then I do at least 5 events a year where I provide all the flowers. So, the old folks home, the animal shelter, you name it. If they're raising funds, I dive in with the flowers. Um, we also use our farm as a model for other gardeners. So the garden club is intimately involved with the work that we do. And then we have these visitors from all over the world that come to the farm, and they're looking for an experience and a place just to breathe, a place just to come and go, oh my God. And then take a piece of that experience home with them. They really have a strong desire to take a piece of that experience home. So whether it's a you pick or picking up a bouquet, I do a lot of other crazy things, engage in a workshop, or just chat with me out on the farm. It's amazing. And I am exhausted by the end of the day because it's just talking all day long. Okay, so year one, 3 years ago. So we've been on this property for 4 years. It was all lawn. We dove in with a couple permaculture guys to design the initial farm, not thinking about doing a flower farm, got involved with the garden club, took the Floret course, and never looked back. I had never grown an annual in my life. I'm a perennial girl, so this was all a real experiment for me. But Pam at Poppy Starts, I don't know if any of you know her. She was like, Carol, Skagit Hort is going out of business and you need to go pick up a bunch of their plugs. So I did. And she's like, you need to start a nursery. And mainly because our local nursery, a gal that had owned it before retired. And so we had no nursery on the island. So there was this big vacuum that needed to be filled. So you can see that that's my large hoop house down by the street. And we started selling. I planted up plugs. I planted from seed. My garden club friends jumped in and brought in all these unique vegetables and natives, and it was a hit. I mean, it was a raucous scene. So year two, the full service nursery opened back up in town, and I was like, well, I'm not going to compete with that. So I stepped back from doing nursery stock. I mean, I did easy things that I could grow, like nasturtiums. I really focused in on florals. My perennials were getting established. I was getting better at growing annuals. And then I started making this skincare line here on the farm that's tallow based, um, and started selling it at the farmer's market. The co-op picked it up. I sell it nationally. It's a sweet little line, and it was a nice little way to fill that gap of not having the nursery plants. But I still had people that said, hey, I want to buy from you. I want to buy veg starts. I want to buy herb starts. I want to buy some of the perennials, the specialty perennials that you're growing out there. Do you have any snapdragons? So pivoting forward now to year three. So I am facing some challenges. And this is where Kate really leaned into this. We have 7 parking spaces. We do have the Init Ship Bay across the street with loads of parking. So it's just getting people to not, cluster right in my parking lot and make sure I have really good signage so they go to the overflow. County use restrictions. Oh boy, howdy, Kate, my God. You can't have a sign bigger than this. You can't have people in your hoop house. At one point, they told me I couldn't sell flowers in my farm stand. So I have been battling our county with, okay, there's obviously a lot of confusion about what the codes are, but I am restricted to what I can sell in my farm stand. And I have to grow or significantly change. For instance, I can't just go buy nursery plants and bring them over wholesale and sell them retail. I have to grow them myself. Or, and I do have a nursery license, or I have to go ahead and get their seedlings, alter them, and grow them so that they're 3 times bigger, and then I can sell them. So I've got some restrictions that I'm dealing with. And Kate, you gave me the idea of that dedicated outdoor table and just put it under a tent and just call it a day. I mean, sometimes you're just like, let's just move forward. Labeling, my God, I hate labeling stuff. And then half the time I don't know what it is or what the price is. I'm like, no, just pay whatever you want to pay. So don't do that. Label, price, everything. So commercial label systems for nurseries are really expensive. It's like a $5,000 expense, that at least the ones I was researching. So we have a laser printer. I bought some plant tags. Alan and I are battling how to get them to print, but we'll figure it out. All I can just say is label, 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 price, price, price. And time. We're running a whole nother company, so I'm building a self-serve model. We tried it out in October. We have a completely different clientele in October than we do in July, but I just haven't had people do crazy stuff. I haven't had anybody take advantage. I haven't had anybody steal anything. I'm just going to go for it and just stock and be out there and have volunteers out there and do the best I can and forget the rest. We have Wi-Fi, and so free guest Wi-Fi, because if they're trying to pay by Venmo, they need to get on the Wi-Fi. So we have free Wi-Fi, and we're installing all these bird perches all over our farm that have QR codes on them, so they can say, "Oh, what's growing here? Is it offered in the farm stand or on my nursery tables? How do I grow that?" So I'm really leaning into this bird perch idea with QR codes on it, so people can get information out on the farm. We have honor boxes. You would not believe how many people donate to the farm, and everything goes towards weeding. And I'm just like, we pay a living wage and everything goes towards weeding. Price tags on everything on the farm stand. I talked about that. We really look at our farm as a demonstration farm. So one of the things I haven't talked about yet is I've made an investment in Terra Nova's perennial plug offering for flowering perennials. And I'm doing a demonstration field, an incredible selection of perennials, just incredible. Like, I'm so excited.
That's so
So, I
cool.
mean, penstemon, salvias, you name it. I mean, just really crazy flowering perennials that will eventually evolve into a new type of cutting garden. So, just to wrap it all up, I think one other point I haven't really talked about is fake it till you make it. I mean, I do grow a lot from seed, but Kate leaned on this too. Lean into your community. There's people growing stuff on your community that don't have a way to sell it. So invite them to bring their starts to you and mark them up and resell them. It's a win-win.
Mm, love it.
lean into these plugs. Plugs are really interesting because you can get them into 4-inch pots and you can get them established. And then when you have that downtime in July when it is getting hot, there's loads of perennials that want to be planted in the fall. In fact, that's the optimal time to plant. Plant them in the fall when they can get their root game on, they got plenty of water, and then they just take off early spring. So fake it till you make it. The
Love it.
thing I haven't mentioned are garden to go boxes because I was looking at Kate's offerings and people want to grab and go. So I have these, I found these drink container things. You can just plug in your 4-inch pots and then that way they can, you know, eh, choose their own adventure with the kinds of plants and put them in these little containers or take a collection that I've put together. Garden to
Mm,
go.
that's awesome for you. Hi, Fawn.
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so delighted you're here. You have so much that you're doing, and you're kind of juggling two farms.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. First, I want to tell Carol and Kate they did such a great job, and I loved hearing about the beautiful businesses that they've grown and created and provided for their community. It's just really inspiring. So thank you for that. So I'm Fawn Rueckert. I have my own farm that I started in 2017 called Sego Lily Flower Farm. That's our state flower here in Utah. I live in South Jordan and just have a very small suburban farm. Um, it was larger at one point. I leased land. But back in 2019, myself and a few other new growers started the Utah Cut Flower Farm Association. And um, having that little community has really helped what I've done since then. And at our very first welcome event, I met a hydroponic farmer down in Pleasant Grove, Utah, and she had this space next to their farm shop. And that's what you see right now on the screen is that's their land. The first year I think they had it, they grew a vegetable garden there. And they were just looking for something that was going to be a little bit easier to maintain and maybe something unique. And so she floated the idea of me teaching a season-long course where we grew cut flowers. And so each person has a row, they learn hands-on. And of course, as part of this, we're growing the plugs for the class. And during that class, uh, one of the students, we had our night on seed starting. We were starting seeds, talking about it. And she said, this is really great, but where can I go buy cut flower plants? And this is back in 2020. I said, well, sometimes you can find the state fair zinnias or you can find some rocket snapdragons at your local nursery, but really you can't find very much else. So you need to learn how to start them. And she said, well, I don't want to. Why don't you do it for me? And I said, you know what? That's a great idea. Snuck Farm has their hydroponic greenhouse, and then they had what they called the dirt house. And it's a 6,000 square foot greenhouse that they were using for crops like radishes and to be honest, it wasn't the most productive or profitable crops, those root crops over the winter. There's only so many radishes that you can sell. And so that night after the class, I floated it to Paige Westover, who's the owner of Snuck Farm, and said, what do you think of this? What if we start more plugs when we're starting plugs for the class? And she was fully on board. And at the same time, I, as a flower farmer, was looking for a local producer of Lysianthus plugs. And I had talked to maybe 4 or 5 nurseries in my immediate area and kind of just got the brush off. They'd say they just didn't get what I was trying to do. They're like, oh, it takes a long time to get them to bloom. And I was like, no, I don't want them blooming when I pick them up. I need the starts. And they're like, we'll come back in November and we'll talk about it. But it was kind of just, they're busy. They didn't see the vision. And so we started Snuck Flowers, which grows for wholesale flower farmers, and then retail backyard growers. The picture on the one side is Paige and I'm in the overalls, and then the other one is our class from last year having our bouquet making night. They've harvested flowers. I teach them how to wrap and make bouquets. It's really fun. And most of these people, we've now had about 120 people come through that class. And we have this great community of people that come back and buy plugs now. So we've taught them how to grow them, and now they're coming back and buying their plants from us. And it's like my favorite thing is seeing these people that I spend a summer with, and then they come back for the plant sales. We have 2 plant sales. And it's just really, really fun. So those are kind of our backyard growers. We create curated collections for them that they can pre-order. We do a pre-order day, October 1st. And so we have 6 collections they can, actually it's 7 collections they can order, and you can see those on snuckfarm.com. And then we have a variety of just 72 cell trays that they can just buy in quantity for those backyard growers that want one kind of Lysianthus. So we just have a handful of varieties that we offer in bulk for them. And then on the same day, we open it up for our farmers for wholesale, and they have to submit a TC 721 form. It's not taxed. We're very careful about who orders those so that we're making sure we're not breaking any laws or committing tax fraud or whatever, So, but it's really great to be able to provide that service for farmers. I just got an email last night from a woman who has had to move her farm. She's got 4 little kids. She had a baby last year, and she sent the sweetest note that said, "Thank you so much for growing, because I don't know that I'd be farming this year if you didn't provide plugs." And so for me, even though I'm working like crazy hours this time of year, it just fills my cup to know that I'm helping other mostly women, to be honest, but other small businesses succeed and have a way forward when things get tough. Because farming is freaking hard, right? Like, it's hard. So those are kind of the two things. Our backyard growers really want to grow what the farmers are growing. And they want to get the specialty ranunculus, and they want to see all the Lysianthus varieties. And, I have this thought of like, it's like a candy store at these plant sales. Like, they can come and find all the fun little weird things that they've seen on social media or read about in books. And I love being able to provide that for people. When we first started, we had, they had for a long time, Snuck Farm did a plant sale around the last frost. That's around Mother's Day here in Utah. And so they'd have veggies and some flowers and some herbs and all kinds of things around that date. So it was not a new thing for Snuck Farm to be having a plant sale. But what I introduced was doing a cool season plant sale. So it's all the things. And we have another farm that'll bring in some vegetables. But in my greenhouse, if it's not a cut flower, it's really not in there. Like, people know we were really specialized. People know if they're coming to us and I'm selling it and it's a cut flower, or it's a flower, it's a cut flower. So there's lots of nurseries in the area, and they can go get their bedding plants at those places. So we had to really educate our community that you could plant cool season flowers before that last frost date. And we've been doing the early plant sale, I think for 4 years. This might be our 5th year. And after one of them, we had a snowstorm and people lost their freaking minds. Like they were just like, you sold me these plants. I planted them. You said it was going to be okay. I was getting angry Instagram messages and I just like, I was like, it's going to be okay. It's like, trust me, they're going to make it through. And, you know, I never heard back from the really angry, mean ones. Like they never said, "Hey, I'm sorry," but they did live, you know. But I know they did because mine did. And so I think we have to educate our communities. But now we've got this thriving community that gets so excited for the spring plant sale. It's now way bigger than our warm season plant sale because it has those things like Kate was talking about, the Lysianthus and the ranunculus and all those things that they can't get anywhere else. And I love perennials, like Carol was saying, like those cut flower perennials are just so fun. And when you share that enthusiasm for them, people get excited and people show up and buy us out every year. The picture on with the hoops is my little farm. I think something that's very relatable is that I'm just growing my farm in my backyard. And so lots of backyard growers can relate to like, oh, Fawn doesn't have a huge acreage. It's just this little backyard that's very productive. And I kind of test everything out. I don't sell things that don't do well here. And so people can feel confident that it's not like going to some of the big box stores and they're selling things that really don't grow in your zone and they're going to die over the winter. But they can feel confident that we are only selling the things that really do well here in our climate. And then the greenhouse, that's our 6,000 square foot dirt house, which is not called the dirt house any longer. It's now the flower house. It's been rechristened on everything. So um, we were having the biggest year we've ever had, and we grew 120,000 Lysianthus this year, and we're almost sick of them, which I would have never thought before, but it's really great. So you can find me on Instagram at Sego Lily Flower Farm and at Snuck Flowers. And then those are the two websites that you can check out. We have a flower tab at Snuck Farm that kind of shows our offerings for the backyard growers. And then our wholesale, we kind of keep a little more closed off. But if anyone wants to reach out, and we grow a lot of things there. We want to make sure. One of the things we really try to do for the farmers too is meet their needs with having different pickup dates. So we have 4 pickup dates so that these farmers can succession plant their. So we've got snapdragons in March and April, and zinnias in May and early June. And so that we're, you know, I was a flower farmer, so I thought, what do I want? And that's what I created.
This is my mind is spinning. I just love all that you're doing, and I'm going to bring Carol and Kate into the mix so that we can maybe do a last minute Q&A here. There are some questions. And how do you wrap the soil block seedlings? Can you just address that again, Kate, a little bit?
So I actually grow most of my stuff in soil blocks, and with that, different clientele, different
Hmm.
people that come to my property, most of them perfectly fine. Let me just grab a plant, put it on a tray, just like we would shop at a nursery that has plants and pots. Um, Newer growers don't necessarily want to get their hands dirty. I'm always there to help. And oh, what would you like me to select for you? Which plant do you want to pick? Um, when I go to markets, I have tried that, and I'm finding for most of the markets, except the cutting garden sale, everyone was great grabbing plants at the Seattle Growers sale coming up. But other places I'm finding having them more pre-packaged are beneficial for the customers. They want to come in and be able to look at a quick collection and it's already in a little box or a big box and be
Sure.
able to grab and go. So I do package differently for different groups.
Yeah. And I saw that Carol had she talked about the drink caddy. Is it sort of like a something that you'd get like 4 lattes in from Starbucks, that sort of
Yep.
thing?
Yep.
Okay.
From Uline. Yeah, we ordered a case of them and I opened it up and I was like, oh gosh, I could totally put a garden to go stamp on this and a little farm. And then they could put their little 4-inch pots in there. I, I've struggled with this with the plastic pots too. But what I always say is if you bring back my 4-inch pots, I will take them.
Mm,
Do not, and I am like serious as all get out. Do not bring me other people's pots because that's bringing disease, and I can't process them, and I don't have time for that.
yeah,
So I'm like, help me help you. I'm happy to take them, but they've got to be mine, and I'll know if they're
yeah.
mine.
How about you, Fawn? Do you have anything you want to mention about packaging? You talked about people pre-ordering. When they pick up their pre-order, is it on a tray or how do you?
I wish we could do less plastic. We definitely recycle as much as we can and reuse. Um, but it's like a standard 72, a 10 by 20 tray that they pick up. And we do offer the collections in that size. So it's really easy for us to like, here's your tray and go. So that's how we design them. But I wish we could do soil blocks. I think that's so awesome. It's
Yeah, I think at
amazing.
the volume you're doing, that might be kind of a challenge. I'm going to run through some of these questions because I've been neglecting them, and maybe we just have time for each of you to address this. Talking about community and your customer base, I think it sounds like you're all wildly successful, but it didn't happen overnight because you had to find the customers, and I know that that's a challenge. So maybe we each can talk about like one surprise of how you developed community. Maybe Carol, you start, and then we'll go to Fawn and then Kate.
We are uniquely located on a major road out to Moran State Park, and all you have to do is swivel your head, and you're like, "Holy cow, what is that?" I mean, I'm shocked that there haven't been rear ends on our street.
I can attest to that. It's
Yeah,
right in your face. Yeah, you can't
yeah.
miss it.
So that just, and everybody was watching in the community and it's like, "Oh, what's going on there? What's going on there?" So when we opened, the community showed up first because they were dying to know what was happening.
Yeah.
But then again,
Location.
Alan and I are so inextricably linked to the community through Mercy flights that people knew us from that. But yeah, we're just strategically located.
Okay. Fawn, how about you?
Um, I think my work with the Utah Cut Flower Farm Association, we had been working there a couple of years, kind of networking with other farmers really helped us kind of have a first place at least for our wholesale to say, hey, we're providing the service. Um, and that's been really great. And then the class it was just like a natural continuation. Like they were customers of this workshop and then just, come back every year for that. And then they tell all their friends. And it just kind of has spread word of mouth more than anything else. And sometimes we're like, stop telling people. We're there's
And
only so much we can grow.
Fawn, do you or Snuck Farms maintain that mailing list, and can people sign up for a newsletter to get those announcements?
So I have my own mailing list and I write a lot of my garden like thoughts. Like I did a Lysianthus trial and a lot of that information is on my website. Snuck Farm will mostly send out things like, hey, the plant sale's coming up.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of brief, but yeah.
Okay. Kate, how about you?
So I actually started a little bit different of really just starting as a nursery and trying started with, the social media, and it really was having a website set up before I started anything. And as soon as people started seeing a couple posts, and I was really hitting on, the cutting garden plants and Lysianthus, immediately people signed up for my newsletter. And so that's how I created community. I have a kind of a personal writing style that people started, yeah, we became pen pals.
Yeah.
And then as that has built, you have the community, that has come along with it for the opening mornings of the sales and whatnot. So I'd say having a website's really important with a newsletter, and social media it you have some limitations there, I've found, especially being quite small, but that's a definite place to start connecting with customers.
Okay, this is great. There's so many other good questions. I think I'm going to try to synthesize a few for, I promise, is our last question. We want to honor the time. For those of you who are selling cut flowers and are farmer florists and doing design in terms of bouquets or even wedding work. Do you find that selling cut flowers is cannibalizing or drawing away from that business, or can they coexist and complement each other? Fawn, you want to go first, and then we'll go to Carol and Kate.
Sure. I've had a couple, I do a bouquet subscription for Sego Lily Flower Farm, and I have had a couple of people that have taken the class and now are customers of the curated collections, but no longer buy bouquets from me. But it's like, 3% of
And then someone else is going to
like,
fill that slot, then probably.
yes. Yeah. And you're just opening a whole new market. Like it's these people that wouldn't necessarily be your bouquet subscribers to begin with because they're just a little more frugal or they love gardening and they think I can do that. So you're just kind of monetizing a different group of people is what I
That's
feel
great.
like. So
That's great. Carol, how about you? Because you're doing design and cut flowers and you pick and weddings
Yeah.
and nursery plants.
So I make bouquets, I put them in the farm stand. I There's a glut of people growing flowers on and selling at the grocery stores and I'm like I don't need to compete in this space. I'm selling an experience. People come and it is an experience of cutting on this farm. And then I provide workspace for them to put their bouquets together. That's kind of unique. Um, and at farmers market, rather than selling bouquets, I'm primarily there to sell my skincare. I have buckets of stems, and they'll go buy a bouquet from somebody else and go, God, this could really use some of those. And they'll come over to me and they'll buy, three dahlias, to stick in their bouquet, or I'll rip the bouquet apart and put it back together.
I love it.
And
That's great.
that's my adapt
Okay.
pivot.
I also will say check out the skincare line. If you go to Carol's website, she's gifted me some of uh, the wonderful products, and it's so nice to know it's 100% local. The tallow's local from Orcas Island. It's like you can't get more local than that. So, okay, Kate, how about you? Because you do have a subscription as well, don't you?
I do. I have some customers that started on one side, maybe bouquet, and then the next year, oh, I want to try growing some of these things and bought curated collections. And then the following year, they know exactly what they want. So they're shopping off the tables directly. And I've had people the other direction as well. And I would say offering both, having the flowers as well as the plants that you obviously get overlap, but you also get people that you might bring in on one side that never would have shopped with you otherwise.
Mm, I love it. I wish we had more time. I want to thank Fawn and Carol and Kate for just their incredible generosity. And the only reason this works is when members are willing to share their expertise with other members. And I'm just grateful for all of you. Wish you all a fantastic season to come. It's the season, and if you're interested in getting involved in the Ultimate Cutting Garden Plant Sale, which is here in Seattle on May 3rd, Kate is going to be vending. It'll be all the farmers at the Seattle Growers Market will participate, and a few other Slow Flowers members are vending, and there's still space. So check that out. Reach out to me if you need more information. And Kate, you said it was really successful for you last year, so I'm thrilled that you're coming back. Gardeners want these flowers.